Hello guys and welcome back. Today we start a new project, the Leopard 1 A4 from Meng. But we won't be building this variant shown here. Instead I will be using this conversion kit to build a Danish Leopard 1 A5DK. We will start with the running gear. Since very few details have been added to the hull, we have to attach a large number of parts and small details here. We'll begin with the front swinging arms. The parts are cut from the sprue using my side cutters, then cleaned up with a sanding stick and later glued with Tamiya's extra thin cement. Then these dampers are placed in their respective positions. Large locator pins or corresponding holes ensure correct placement of all parts. The Leopard has a functional torsion bar suspension. To build it, the individual rods are pushed through the hull and inserted into the designated recesses at the other side. A small amount of glue can then be used to secure it in place. Afterward, these swing arms can be realistically moved up and down. The axles of the return rollers must first be attached to the hull. The orientation is difficult to see in the instructions, but I think this is the correct one. Next, the rollers are glued on. Use a little more glue here, as the contact area is quite small. The same applies to the axle of the drive wheel, because here may be slightly more tension on later. Now it's time for the road wheels. Cleaning was quite easy, as there were only 2 contact points per wheel half. Then a polycap is placed in each wheel and the halves are glued together. Polycaps make the entire running gear construction process significantly easier, and any kit that includes them is a definite plus. There are 2 options for the drive sprocket, one for the German one and one for the Greek version. The Danish version is based on the German Leopard, which is why we are choosing the German options. There are also quite a few details added to the back. First, this box here, which consists of 2 parts. The fit is excellent and locator pins are found everywhere here as well. Since it's a German tank, we also find the Leitkreuz, guide cross in English, which is used for undetected driving in the dark to continue the recognize the vehicle ahead. Here we have the first part that we need to replace with a resin part from the conversion kit, the telephone box on the back. The Danish version has a small extra piece on the top. It fits easily into the plastic piece, but will require superglue. Finally, 2 spare track links and the transport bracket for the gun barrel are attached. Now we again have a choice between 2 parts, engine grills for the German and the Greek versions. The part fits very precisely into the designated recess on the inside and can be glued in place. The photo etch part can then be attached from above using superglue. I can glue the back panel to the lower hull. Make sure to align it properly to avoid any gaps. And then the lower and upper hull can be joined. I glue them together small areas one after the other to ensure correct alignment. There are two holes at the front for the ice cleats. Since these aren't present on the Danish Leopard, I have to fill the holes. I'm using Vallejo's plastic putty for this. The excess can be dissolved and removed with a little water. The tow hooks go in the two lower holes here. After that, more holes need to be filled. The Danish Leopard tank has no externally mounted tools, so we have to fill and sand almost the entire sides. Unfortunately, a few raised details also have to be removed, which is always a little bit more complicated. The iconic side exhausts are now glued to the rear. Now we are getting more resin parts. Instead of tools, the Danish Leopard has several storage boxes. Unfortunately, the instructions from Perfect Scale Modellbau are a bit vague regarding the exact positioning. This is, incidentally, a reoccurring issue with these instructions. Then there are a few more plastic details. One difficulty with this conversion kit is figuring out which parts to use and which can be omitted. Therefore, if I make any mistakes, please forgive me. The periscopes come as clear parts. Therefore, I use liquid mask to protect them from future paint. I'm leaving the driver's hatch closed due to the lack of interior parts. On the engine deck of the German Leopard tank, there's another tool rack. I couldn't find any information about this for the Danish version, so I just installed it. There are also two tow hooks on the back here. The mud flaps for the rear come in two versions, folded up and folded down. You can choose whichever you prefer, and I will take the folded down ones. Let's turn our attention to the turret now. First, the gun mantlet has a few handles to attach. For the vertical movement, there are again polycaps in this mechanism, which are attached to the turret. It works great and the gun could move up and down, although you will see later that this function is completely useless. The upper part of the turret comes as a large resin piece in the conversion kit. It looks really great, although my turret unfortunately had an air bubble that I now have to fill. For the price of the conversion kit, I would expect a bit more quality control. Since we are now mainly working with resin parts, I will almost exclusively be using superglue. The back of the turret was slightly warped, but it could be glued into the correct shape with light pressure. The underside of the turret also required some additional work to fit seamlessly into the resin part. A significant difference from the German Leopard are the two large boxes attached to the rear of the turret. This makes the turret considerably longer and heavier. The conversion kit also includes some additional photo etched parts. Since I have rarely worked with such parts before, I don't own a bending tool. So a metal ruler and a knife blade will have to do. Everything else can be bent with various sizes of tweezers. Next, I will glue the mantlet cover between the turret and the gun mantlet. And this step also negates the vertical movement of the gun barrel, as no movement is now possible. Therefore, if you want to depict the tank with the barrel raised or lowered, you will likely have to resort to homemade parts. This is the bracket for the searchlight. The Danes used a different searchlight here, so we are only allowed to attach the frame. I will also depict all the hatches on the turret as closed. Firstly, because one hatch is already sealed with resin, and secondly, because I don't have a suitable crew anyways. For the gunner's aiming sight, there is also a new resin part, which is detailed with a photo etched part inside. Then I can glue it onto the turret. Two small hatches will be added to the right and left edges. In my version I will depict them open, but a closed version is also possible. And another cover on top. The gun barrel also needs a small modification. The Danes have a different muzzle brake. I cut off the pin on the plastic barrel and am now trying to attach the resin part as straight as possible. Then I quickly spray it with black primer to spot and correct any unevenness. There are even more grills and covers. As far as the details go, this conversion kit is really top notch. The only downside is the instructions, which are rubbish, but we will definitely get to that later. I find this jerrycan holder a particularly nice detail in the conversion kit. I will definitely be attaching some here later. The smoke grenade launchers are then attached to the right and left side of the turret. Pay close attention to the instructions here, as the left and right side are made up of different parts. Otherwise, like me, you will end up attaching the wrong side first. The Danes still have these long cylinders on their smoke grenade launchers. These serve as storage space for additional smoke grenades. I'm not 100% sure what this is, but I suspect it's an extension for the front periscope to allow viewing over the retrofitted fire control system. Unfortunately, the Meng kit was missing the covers for the periscopes, and even after contacting Meng several times, these parts don't seem to exist at all. Therefore, I had to print replacements myself. They don't fit perfectly, but they are still better than nothing. This is the new searchlight, which I can now attach to the previously installed bracket. And even more small details. As I said, this conversion kit is really top notch when it comes to details. But that again brings us to the negative point of this conversion kit. I have no idea what this is in the back, or if it's even supposed to look like this. The instructions provide a pixelated little picture from which you are left to guess how these parts fit together. Is it really that difficult for Perfect Scale Modellbau to take a few more pictures? Contrary to the instructions, I'm attaching the side mirrors in the folded position. This reduces the risk of breaking them. Here's also a nice photo etch part from the Meng kit, which can easily be overlooked. The Danish Leopard side skirts have diagonal elements. I'm not sure what they are, I suspect they might be brackets for camouflage, for example. In my kit I will be recreating them using thin strips of plastic profile. Since both are plastic, I can use regular plastic cement here. Another detail I only noticed later is that all Danish Leopard tanks are missing this last panel on their side skirts. I can't explain why, but all references show this panel missing. Using a knife and my side cutter, I carefully cut out the panel and smooth out the edges with sandpaper. The wheels are made of rubber on the outside. In use, this would quickly develop cracks, scratches and dents. Therefore, it's always a nice and simple detail to slightly damage the wheels. To do this, I just cut them with my knife and smooth the edges if necessary. To attach the gun barrel to the gun mantlet, I use Tamiya's thick cement. This gives me a better hold and makes the connection more stable. Another detail I would like to add is a cable from the searchlight to the cable duct. For this I'm using a piece of lead wire. The wire can easily be bent into a realistic shape and then glued in place with superglue. The tow ropes are made of twisted metal wire. The corresponding brackets are located on the right and left side of the hull. And with that, we have already completed this part of the project. This was my first attempt with a resin conversion kit. It certainly takes some getting used to working with superglue, and as already mentioned, the instructions from the conversion kit are very poor. However, the Meng base kit is very nice apart from the missing parts. All in all, I'm satisfied with the result for now. This will be the second Danish tank on my channel. And as you will see in the next part, I don't intend to just build any old Leopard, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to never miss any future uploads. Any feedback or suggestions, let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.